The girls today in society go for classical poetry, don't they, Jen?
They do.
To win their hearts, you must quote with ease Aeschylus and Euripides.
One must know Homer and believe meets on Sophocles, also say ho ho. Unless you know Shelley and Keats and Pope, dainty Debbies will call you a dope. But the poet of them all, who will start and simply raven, is the poet people call the Bard of Stratford-on-Avon. Brush up your Shakespeare, start quoting him now. Brush up your Shakespeare, and the women you will wow. Just declaim a few lines from a fella, and she'll think you're a hell of a fella.
If your blonde won't respond when you flatter her, tell her what Tony told Cleopatra.
If she fights when you close, you a mustn't. What are clothes not to do about nothing?
Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow. With the wife of the British ambassador, try a crack out of Troilus and Cressida.
If she says she won't buy it or take it, make her take it. What's more, as you like it.
If she says your behaviour is heinous, kick her right in the Coriolanus.
Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow. If she then wants an all-by-herself night, let her rest every 11th or 12th night.
If because of your heat she gets huffy, simply play on and lay on, McDuffie.
When your baby is pleading for pleasure, let her sample your measure for measure.
Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow. Better mention the Merchant of Venice, when her sweet pound of flesh you would menace.
If her virtue at first she defends, well, just remind her that all's well that ends well.
And if she still won't give you a bonus, you know what Venus got from Adonis.
Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow. Forsooth,
And they'll all kowtow. He begged.
and they'll all kowtow.
Odds vodka.
And they'll all kowtow.
Good evening, I'm Graham Kennedy. John Mangos and I bring you the news coast to coast. John, is there any news fit to see on this Thursday evening, the 16th day of November, 1989?
Graham, tonight, a devastating series of tornadoes claims at least 14 lives in America's South. Prime Minister Hawke makes a cameo appearance in South Australia's election campaign, and highlights of 2 remarkable years of television.
In the Nine Network newsroom now is George Denikin.
Yes, Graham. John, rescue workers are still sifting through rubble left by a series of devastating tornadoes in the southern states of America. And that's all from the newsroom for now. I'll be back with more a little later in the show.
Do you realise that you created quite a bit of chaos last night by saying it was your last Coast to Coast?
Oh, on the switchboard, you mean? Yes, I know. I do know that because I was there. In fact, I answered the many thousands of calls myself. I do love it when I con the Australian press. They've conned me for many years, and many of them are very nice, of course. But they fell for it. The tabloids today gave us page 3. That's what it's all about, ratings and all of that.
Yeah, but if this is truly your last show, I think you know how sad I am about it.
So, thank you.
I just have one thing to say.
What's that?
Can I have your car parking space?
To think he was living in a clothing bin in Los Angeles when I found him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
it's
no,
just
don't say anything. Grovelling doesn't become you, John. I exaggerated a bit. I didn't find him in Los Angeles living in a clothing bin. He was living at the YWCA, wouldn't you know?
You mean the YMCA?
Not what I heard.
The judges received all the ingredients to the perfect martini and a lift home, but they didn't receive what they may need most, the cure for a serious hangover. In the United States, Denise Campbell, Graham Kennedy, Coast to Coast.
Do you enjoy cocktails?
Yes, I do. Tell me a couple. Who's sorry now? I'm sorry now. No more coasts to coasts for Grey Grey. No more $18,350 a week either. Shit. Oh. Heavens above. Did you see that? Was a very... Randall, can you do that again? That was fascinating. I mean, without all the...
There it is. Oh, who does that look like?
No, Randall, what... Oh, isn't that terrible? Hello, Mum. I've got a glandular... Randall, do you mean you've had this up your sleeve for 2 years and we... Isn't that revolting? I knew Sir Frank too, of course. Randall, enough. I mean...
Very rusty. Oh.
Thanks, Randall. Is he clever, that Randall Churchill?
He can be, yes.
Did you see one of the papers, the Daily Telegraph it was in Sydney? Kennedy quits, it said. On show last night.
Yes.
All I said last night was that this is my last Coast to Coast. Now, I could have told you it was my last Coast to Coast if you'd asked me in April 1988, because my deal was for 2 years. This is the last night of the 2 years. I haven't quit, I haven't resigned. This is the end. And I've had so much fun. You would know how much I love Ken Sutcliffe and John Mangos, but there's all kinds of other people that I could mention their names and you wouldn't know them. Their crew and they're in the makeup thing. I've had a very nice time. As I've always said, being a chum is fun. Good night.
Always smiling, always gay, so that's what